Welcome to the Real Estate Talk podcast with myself, Oliver Ingalls, and my esteemed co-host, Benji Weinberger. If you take anything from this podcast, if you learn any hints, if you take away any tips, we would love for you to like, subscribe, and please share.
I don't even need to know what the money is. Like, I'm in. I absolutely hate picking up the phone. If you have a picture of what Newcastle University is like, yeah, it's like that.
Geordie Shore.
Like Geordie Shore.
Geordie Shore.
I think I was only at Coke for about 18 months.
If you've got influence, you've got power.
Exactly. And it's good to know I've got one watcher.
Yeah.
I had an amazing time. Had the best time. Dude, I was a cool dude back then. Times have changed, right?
We have a curveball of a podcast today. Elliot Jones.
He used to work at Coca-Cola, countrywide, Knight Frank as head of digital, transitioned to DDRE Global, and is now running Advsr, which we have spoken about on a number of podcasts.
Elliot has just won the Inman Technology and Data Awards. He dives in on this podcast to tell us about the algorithms, how they work, the next 10 years of being a real estate agent.
Let's go.
Let's do it. Mr. Elliot Jones, thank
Hello.
you very much for joining us, mate. We really appreciate it.
Thanks for having me.
Absolute pleasure.
In the hot seat.
It is very hot in here.
We've been asking you for ages, and we finally managed to pin you down.
Nailed me down, exactly. You got 45 minutes.
Yeah. I love that.
It's in hot demand.
So, mate, like we start with a lot of advisors that we normally kind of start from, you know, where they were born and how they grew up. We want to start with you back at the education element, because we want to kind of take people from what you did to where you are now, and that kind of whole thought process, but also what you've learned throughout the last 15 years. Tell us what you studied at university and how you kind of got into the marketing kind of background.
Sure. So I'll rewind a year and go A-levels, studied geography, biology, and business, right? And I came out of the back of my A-levels not knowing what I wanted to do, thought I wanted to go to university. Had a vision from my sister went to Newcastle University. So I had a vision of what like Newcastle was like as a university. My other sister went to Liverpool and Manchester. So I sort of knew what the idea of big city university was. And I don't know what you know about Newcastle, but if you have a picture of what Newcastle University is like, yeah, it's like that.
Geordie Shore.
Like Geordie Shore.
Geordie Shore.
So I sort of had that in my mind as where I was going to go, but I didn't really know what I wanted to study, though I was not particularly like interested in anything. There was no vocational degree that I wanted to do. So midway, when you pick your university sort of applications, you're sort of midway through your A-levels, I think. And I was just like, look, I'm really enjoying geography at the time. I was wading in rivers and drawing volcanoes or whatever you do at A-level geography. So I was like, I might as well do that. At least I know I'm going to enjoy it.
Yeah.
And it just so happened that's also what my sister had studied. So I had all of her notes and all of her like exam reports and that sort of thing. So took a year out, went basically on holiday for 6 months, came back, went to Newcastle University, big sort of city campus university, lived in student halls and then with a group of lads, and basically just drifted through 3 years of university, came out the back of it with a 2-1, didn't put particularly much effort in, and like it had an amazing time, had the best time, but got to the end of my degree and I was like, right, now I've got a geography degree. What do I do with this bit of paper? And at that point I'd met my now wife and we were into our skiing load. So we moved out to New Zealand for our summer, their winter. And we did that twice for like two British summers, qualified as snowboard instructors, like live the dream, right?
Cool dude.
I was a cool dude back then. Times have changed, right? And then when that sort of came to a head and I moved back to London, I was literally like, I have no idea what I want to do, what I need to do. Geography opens a lot of doors, but it's like a very generalist subject. I was very good at presenting. I was really good at like talking and that sort of thing, but no vocational skill. So funnily enough, I got back into London and just caught up with a friend of mine from school who was running the BD department in an advertising agency. And he was like, look, there's a position here. as a junior SEO assistant or something like that, search engine optimization. So I was like, well, I'm back. I'll take it. I paid £21,000. I was living in Brixton at the time, earning no money, spending it literally all on beer, and doing this thing, SEO, that I'd never done before, when I learned completely from scratch. And if you know about SEO, search engine optimization, sort of, we're going back 15 years ago now, the algorithm that ranked where you rank in Google could be gamed quite easily. Mm-hmm. And there was something called link building. So without going into loads of detail, how Google determined which page to put at the top of the list was how many links pointed to it. So if a blog wrote an article and said, click here to find out about red shoes, and you click through to that link and it took you to ASOS's red shoes page, that would rank ASOS higher for red shoes.
Based on how many people clicked on that link?
No, based on how many links there were.
Oh, wow.
How many blogs linked to them, how many newspapers linked to them, external links.
Yeah, okay, yeah.
So the industry, or the role that I took, was all about link building. Yeah. I would ring up these blogs, I'd ring up journalists, I'd write articles, guest posts, I'd try and get as many of these links pointing to my client's website.
Interesting.
And I worked with some really interesting clients. Funnily enough, North London client, Saracens Rugby Club, they were a client of mine. Crew Clothing, they're like sailing, apparel, Adecco, recruitment consultancy, all sorts, from e-commerce to financial services to all sorts. And fast forward a couple of years, industry's changing and social media is becoming a thing. So we started to package up this product that was a search and social product that clients could buy. So it would be like, we'll be writing all these blog posts for journalists to publish or blogs to publish. And then we'd create social media content to sort of supplement the activity. And it would all sort of, the objective was all about steering people towards their website, towards our client's website.
And what social platforms was this at the time then? We talked about Facebook mainly?
Yeah, mainly Facebook. Instagram was in its infancy.
Yeah.
LinkedIn was big. Even things like, depending on the client, like Reddit still is, but was big, especially in the tech recruitment. Pinterest, definitely. Bebo was like, I think, on the way out then, to be honest. Yeah. But all of the sort of OGs, Twitter, obviously, all of the sort of original, the original social platforms. Mm-hmm. And then things like, if we like go one step further, forums were the original social platform. So we did a lot with Mumsnet, which is like London's biggest mums forum. So when you're selling kids clothes for crew clothing, or there was like a back to work recruitment drive for Adecco, Mumsnet was massive for us. Yeah. This product started to develop, and I led that team building and selling that product to sort of like SME businesses, like small enterprise businesses. Mm-hmm. And I was really fortunate at that point that Coca-Cola pinged me on LinkedIn. The headhunter recruiter at Coca-Cola pinged me on LinkedIn and basically said, there's a role coming up for our head social strategist here in London. We are building a social team here for Great Britain and sort of migrating everything from Atlanta HQ, where traditionally everything was managed from, to a UK team. And I was like, bloody hell, like Coca-Cola. Yeah. Like,
wicked.
I don't even need to know what the money is. Like, I'm in. Like, the draw was enough. The brand was enough. So I joined Coca-Cola at a time, as I said, when they were sort of transitioning their digital ecosystem from Atlanta HQ to the UK. So I launched Coca-Cola GB, which is their Instagram account. Wow. Dr. Pepper, Fanta. Yeah. It was at a time when do you know when they put names on the side of Coke bottles? Yes. It was the first time they'd done that in the UK. Yeah. There's obviously a huge thing from social media perspective, because everybody takes photos of it and like shares.
So you were part of the team that started that?
Part of the team that started that. And really interestingly, actually, a stat that I often roll out, I've got loads of cool stats at Coke, but there was only like 50 names in the list. Yeah. But there's just the top 50 names in the UK. It's basically everybody's name.
It's like 75-80% of
exactly. So we didn't have to print that many different cans for most people to be happy.
That's wicked. I love that.
So that was wicked. But we did some amazing stuff. So for that campaign, there was it was around the 2012 Olympics. So obviously Coke, main sponsor, loads of clamour, loads of activity going on. We built a product called, I put them on the spot. I can't remember what it's called. We built a product with Meta, so with Facebook at the time. They weren't called Meta yet, called, I want to say Adblock. I'll come back to you and we can put it in the comments. Where basically everybody that logged onto Facebook on that day was served that ad.
Wow.
It was £1 million a day. Everybody logged onto Facebook saw that ad. And I think they only ever sold that product once to Coca-Cola for that campaign because it's like a ridiculous thing.
Of course.
Wow.
And
I mean, that's just to see the transition from, I mean, this is, so how many years did you do the SEO thing to joining Coca-Cola?
4 or 5, I think.
So 4 or 5 years. So let's say, over that 4 or 5 years, you've gone from, say, Google probably being the only almost platform that everyone wanted to be on, or at least optimized, to a full turn circle now to social media. And were Coca-Cola really doing anything with SEO when you joined Coca-Cola? Was that really even a targeted element now?
No. So SEO wasn't even in the.
It was gone.
It's not like they're an e-commerce platform.
Yeah.
The Coke's vision was all about building community and network, and like Coke's core customer. Obviously, their customer is everybody and anybody. But if they get mum, if they can tackle mum, they clean up. Because mum's the decision maker in the supermarkets. Mum buys the 2-litre bottles of Coke where they make 90% markup, like all this stuff. So it was all about building this community that mums wanted to be involved in.
Wow, that's so fascinating.
And you'll, now I've said that, you'll start to see like, okay, where they position stuff on shelves, the point of sale packaging, it's all talking to mum. Even the range they do, the fact that they bought like vitamin water and smart water and everything's like kid friendly or low sugar, all this stuff is about encouraging mum to give Coke products to their kids.
Was there any point in time in the early stances of social media, when Coca-Cola were like, and you were like, I'm not sure we should be investing this much into it, or actually is this social media the longevity, and is there longevity in it? Any points that got to you going, I'm not sure this is the right thing we should be doing here?
Well, like truthfully, every day we were like, we've just done this huge campaign or created all this content. Dr. Pepper was a lovely example, because if you can picture a Dr. Pepper audience, they're quite like niche, techie, like the cool kids of the world, right? They video game, that sort of thing. And we were creating all this content, putting it out into the world, and just nothing was coming back. Like no one thought we were cool. The UK market didn't buy Dr. Pepper in the same way that like the US gaming community did, that sort of thing. So there was a lot of time we were like, is this really what we're doing? And then we always just take it back to the strategy. Who's our customer? Where are they? What channels do they use? If we're ticking those boxes and we get our brand bit right, which we're lucky with Coke, is like open door. It will come. Like it will come.
So with the amount of money you were putting in for the Dr. Peppers and those sort of things that you're saying, where you were seeing no results, and trying to like kind of reel it back in a way to like what we do and what other people do in real estate, they post loads of content and you don't get any leads from it. Were you just keep on going at it until the results came and were just massively consistent?
Yeah, exactly that. Massively consistent. Just trust the process. Know in your heart of hearts that you're doing the right thing, and you're going to. What the Mr. Beast has that statistic that he put out 450 videos till he got his first I don't know, a subscriber or 1,000 views or something like that. And I think that's the perfect metaphor for like, nothing is instant in the world of social media. You just have to know in your heart of heart that you are turning up, being authentic, delivering the message that you believe to be the message that you want to deliver, and like truly believe it in your heart. If you keep doing that, the audience will surround themselves, the right audience will surround themselves with you. If you tackle it from the other way, which is, that's the market I want to get into, I'm going to try and like retrofit myself into their world, that's when it gets difficult. And that's what like the cold start brands were doing. We were going, that's the market we want, I'm going to try and get in there. And the guard was up. But over time, the guard drops and they start to let you in, they start to engage. And in your world, you see that as like, likes, shares, comments, but ultimately leads, inquiries, buyers, sellers, that sort of thing.
Yeah.
That's the end of the spectrum.
Yeah.
So then from there, and obviously everything you learned from Coca-Cola with that digital side of things, you then, correct me if I'm wrong, transition into real estate with Countrywide?
So initially, that's correct. So initially it was Hamptons. I left Coca-Cola after a relatively short time. I think I was only at Coke for about 18 months. And the reason being was it's such a big enterprise. The reality is even the head of social there makes relatively few decisions. It's like bureaucratic, and you go through the process. And I really wanted to go somewhere I could make a difference. And I was at a stage in my career, like mid-20s, hungry to do more. I was like confident in my ability, that sort of thing. So I took a role at Hamptons International. They were at the time based on the corner of Mayfair, something Gardens, something Square.
Berkeley Square?
It'll come back to me. Anyway, HQ is at HQ. That Hamptons HQ was in Mayfair, and I was working with Leslie Cairns, who's still the MD, and Mark, who was head of sales at the time. And I'd come into their business at a time when Countrywide, their sort of parent company, hadn't quite wrapped their hands around them.
Yeah.
So they were owned already by Countrywide, but Countrywide was sort of letting Hamptons do what they needed to do. So we had autonomy to do whatever we wanted to do. So one of the first things that I was involved in was like setting up like proper Google Analytics tracking on their website. So they went from this period of not having much visibility of who their customers are, how they're engaging digitally with them, to like, holy crap, these people from X country are looking at this property for 2 minutes. We were able to make really informed decisions about all the other marketing activity that we did based on this website data.
Wow.
So they were coming from quite a sort of an archaic starting place.
Yeah.
And it wasn't, and we weren't shifting, and we weren't doing anything sort of massively groundbreaking to get them, like to really springboard them.
What year was this? When did you start?
So I need to check my LinkedIn, but I reckon it was around 2015.
Okay,
maybe
about 10 years ago.
About 10 years ago.
Yeah. Okay.
And then Countrywide. I don't know if you know the story of how Countrywide basically buying up all these estate agents, and they took a huge office space just off Oxford Street and brought all of the brands together. At that point, I became the head of digital for the Prime brands, which was, I think there were 15 brands, but Hamptons International, John D. Wood, Alan DeMade, Hetherington's, Green & Co. So sort of all of the brands that Countrywide, or Countrywide London sort of put in that top tier customer base. And I was there for a period, an actual really rocky period for that business. And I love Countrywide, like I love the people and everything, but they went through a really torrid time they tried to roll out a digital product, a little bit like Purple Bricks, which didn't really work, like a self-serve product, which didn't really work. The board put the CEO under pressure and that sort of thing. Yeah. And it was a lot of fun, and we did a load of cool stuff, but it was, when an opportunity arose for me to sort of step out of that role in the agency side of things and move into a fintech startup that Countrywide had invested in, I jumped at that chance and moved across to a VC-backed startup that was a digital mortgage brokerage. Okay. So the thought process being, we built this piece of technology that would match house buyers to mortgage products in the market. Countrywide would essentially give all of the buyers or all of the customers that they had 5 million people flowing through that business every month across all of the brands. We've put them all into the top of this digital mortgage brokerage hopper. Yeah, it would identify the right product, send them the mortgage recommendation, and we'd make a fee off of the lender on every referral that we made. Wow. Yeah. And unfortunately, we built that product and it was working, and it was just about to sort of go, like the go-to-market strategy was just about to go into full force. And unfortunately, Alison Platt, who was sort of the lead driver and CEO of Countrywide at the time, she left the business. And again, stars aligned at that time. Countrywide CMO had gone to Knight Frank. He gave me a phone call and he was just like, "There's a role here. You should come. It's really good here." So stepped aside to Knight Frank.
Nice. So before we get on to Knight Frank, there was a couple of bits I wanted to ask in there. You spoke a lot about reading the analytics, okay? And this is a really key point because I don't think a lot of actually businesses or startup businesses, including agents and brokers, do. I don't think that they have a thought process of what their potential customer might be or what their audience wants to be, and they will just go out and start to produce content which will hopefully attract that audience. How vital is it to actually read the data on a weekly basis of the type of demographic that you're hitting, where they are across the globe, what sex they are, what age group they are? How important is that behind the lines?
So the best founders, the best businesses are so customer centric that they live, breathe, eat, sleep their customers. They know what their customers are thinking before their customers are thinking it, which means they can deliver literally the best service for their customers as soon as their customers need it. There's no thought process.
Yeah.
Now, analytics is the way you described it, like the data around clicks and gender and what pages they view and all that sort of stuff. Yeah, it's important, but it's only a small piece of the puzzle. And I empathize with small businesses like yours, where you've got all the day job to do, plus you need to be in the customer data. So I really empathize and understand why it's not sort of people's first port of call. Yeah. But my sort of advice or recommendation to anybody is just do more, like understand your customers more, look at all of the different data sources that you have available to yourself. So we've mentioned in this conversation, you've got Google Analytics, that's like your website data. You've got Instagram Analytics, that's your content and engagement data. You've even got like your email, like you find data in your inbox. Yeah. Which emails are you sending? Which are getting responses to? How are people responding? How are people booking like links in meetings in your diary by clicking a link? Like all of this stuff you piece together to build up a picture of who your customers are and how they want to be dealt with. And I guess the more you can do, the better you'll understand your customer, the more you can anticipate and the better service you can deliver, regardless of what, like estate agency to selling shoes, right?
Yeah, I mean, it's a crazy, like you said, to be able to have to do with the day to day, and actually really, and we talk about it on multiple podcasts that we're actually, we are marketing businesses that now just happen to specialize in real estate. But actually, when you strip it back, the amount of work that you need to put into that, even like you just said about knowing your customer inside out. Like, I think if we ask 10 people now, do you really know your customer? I'm not sure they would really be able to identify exactly who that person is or what they love doing and where they are right now, and so on and so on. But it's such a key, it seems so simple, but actually you don't think about it like that.
No.
How do you work out your perfect customer?
So it's funny, literally yesterday, it's a question I don't have the answer to.
Yeah.
I don't think anyone has the answer to. And there are companies that will sell you like persona mapping and avatar creation and all this stuff. But the reality is the world's changing and when your customers are changing. Yeah. Like we are our own customer type, right? We would want to deal with people like us sort of thing. And if I think back to the stuff I did and the content I engaged with even 6 months ago, completely different. Yeah. So how are we supposed to understand? Yeah. It's just, I think it's truly just a case of just like doing more as often as you can, understanding more, being open to change and open to learning and open to adapting and not just saying, well, this is the way that I did things 6 months ago and it worked. So that's the way I'm going to do things for the next 6 months. It's like, that's not how the world works.
It's always evolving. But I guess, for us as agents and people watching, for example, we'll come on and talk about it, Advsr, correct me if I'm wrong, but I would assume your target audience is agents globally, right? So it's kind of a bit easier. You said with Coca-Cola, if you can target the mum and you get the mum on board, the rest falls into place. For us, we're marketing at the same time £1 million listing, as well as a £25 million listing. One's in St. John's Wood, one could be in Battersea. Two completely different profiles. Obviously, they're going to be high net worth individuals, but for us as agents, it's probably even harder because the demographic is so different for the different price points and the different neighborhoods that we're working in.
Yeah.
Which, it's, whereas with some products and services, you can it's easier to pinpoint who your target audience is. Yeah. But for our service of what we're selling, it can be spread out a bit more thin.
Yeah. Can I ask a question which I think a lot of people are always probably asking you,
Mhm.
I think about all the time? How do you spot and read the algorithms?
Great question. Truthfully, like if anyone knew the answer to that question, they'd be running one of the social platforms.
Yeah.
The way I tackle the algorithm, or the way I approach algorithms in general, and then we'll talk social media specifically, is there is no answer to it.
Mhm.
And as soon as there is an answer, it changes, right? And the whole purpose of if you put yourself in the social networks, we'll use Instagram as an example. If you put yourself in their shoes, their role is to deliver the content that you as the recipient want to see quickly, whilst peppering it with stuff that you don't know you want to see, but they know you want to see, and sort of guiding you down this exploratory route of content. What that means is they're having to continually tweak to improve.
Yeah.
There's no, this is it and this is the only way it can be.
Mm.
What that means for us on the sort of creator side is the only way to keep on top of it is to keep trying new things, and doubling down when you're seeing things work, and scaling back when you're seeing things not work.
Yeah.
Which means you have to be in the data all the time to really understand. And it's not just your own data that you're looking at. It's other people's data. What's working for your competitors? How are they where are they getting the most clicks? Where are they getting the most comments? What are they doing? And sometimes it will be really obvious. Sometimes it will be really like opaque and they're like, this is such an average reel. Why is it getting 20,000 views?
Yeah.
Like, how are they doing it? And then you have to sort of take a step back and go, it's not that individual piece of content, but their holistic brand approach, strategy, content delivery.
Yeah.
Funnily enough, literally yesterday, I was at an event with the manager of the Sidemen, like KSI and those guys. And he was talking about exactly this conversation of like the approach they take. They're lucky, I think, in some respects, in that their target customers is people like them.
Yeah.
It's young men who like video games, who like sports, who like hanging out with their mates. So they're living and breathing their like digital personality themselves. But his sort of big takeaway or like key statement for the day was just basically turning up again and again, posting content, putting yourself out there, being authentic, being yourself, don't overthink it, turning up a day in, day out. I think they post 15 pieces of content at the Sidemen collectively. I think there were like 20 of them or something. They each post 15 pieces of content every day.
Wow.
Right? Wow. They're a machine. They're an absolute content machine. But what they have been able to do is manage that sort of content creation, scheduling, posting process. They've managed to optimize it to fit around the rest of their life, right?
Wow.
So like this, and it's not, there's nothing particularly groundbreaking.
No.
You're going to do it with this podcast, I hope, which is like you have a podcast, you chop it up into Instagram Reels, you post those Instagram Reels to TikTok and YouTube Shorts, you get the transcript of it, you run it through ChatGPT and it becomes a blog post, and that blog post becomes tweets.
Well, it's what you do, right?
Yeah.
Your content's inspiring for me because you don't give a shit. You just get your face on camera, you chop it up into loads of reels and you post it everywhere.
Yeah.
And I see your videos everywhere. Like it's inspiring.
That's it. Thank you. I appreciate that. And it's good to know I've got one watcher.
Yeah.
You and your mum.
I wondered who that was. I wondered who that number was in my analytics. But no, it's that. And like and it comes back to the statement I made earlier, where it's like, if you believe in your heart of hearts that what you're doing is the right thing, if there's any doubt, it's probably not. Right? But if you strongly believe that putting your face on camera and walking around and telling a story or like posting stuff about the podcast or whatever it is what you're true to you, and then you'll build an audience around it of people who are inspired by what you're doing.
I think one of the key words that you've used there, and so many people now use it, is authentic. Okay. And I've kind of seen a lot of content change from, you could spend $5,000 on a bit of content and have, be jumping out of an aeroplane into an Aston Martin, and it can look slick and sexy and fucking cool, and you hit like 1,000 people. Yeah, I could be walking down the street, and some of my best posts have been like walking down the street or just talking to camera about the market for 10 seconds, and you hit like 30,000. And actually, like the Sidemen and all these others, sometimes it's literally just watching their day to day.
Yeah.
And actually, people are so interested in just watching people during the days and how they are, that authentic approach actually has better results now than slick, cool, fast and sexy content, which kind of should do well, but doesn't.
I think we've come, there's cyclical like that, right?
Yeah.
And we've gone through this world of all of a sudden, every photo that you saw in the media was edited and every video was perfect. And then AI became a thing, and then you didn't know what was real and what was not. So actually we're starting to come to a second ebb of like, actually people just want to see the real life you. And then I think of, when I say that statements like that, I think of TV programs like Gogglebox.
I know, yeah.
Which is like, I watch it and I don't know why I'm watching it and I love it. And it's just like, I'm watching someone else watch TV.
Yeah.
And that's all it is.
Yeah.
But we're into it, and it's sort of, there must be some sort of psyche
behind it.
So just on that point, I'm conscious of time because I know we've kind of got up to Knight Frank, and then you fast forward, you left, you joined DDRE, and then you're one of the founding members, and then you have now moved on to run Advsr. And I saw last week you won an award. In-Man Future Leaders in Real Estate, 2025 winner of Technology and Data.
Wicked.
Now, you must have seen a hell of a change in the real estate landscape from when you perhaps started at Countrywide, where it was perhaps more print and newspapers and magazines and being in the local shop front, versus now being very, as we're talking about, data-led and tech-heavy. How do you see the next 10 years in your career in real estate being influenced by technology and data?
So I think the big driver of that change, and that change that you described is perfectly accurate. We've moved from sort of print to digital, and now we're moving from corporate digital to personal digital. I think that has largely been driven by technology and the accessibility of technology. 15 years ago, people might have had a Facebook account or not. Now everybody's got an Instagram account, everybody's got a LinkedIn account, and they're starting to create. Now we've got video editing technology in our pockets, and now we're creating our own video content, etc. So technology is facilitating this rapid change. And I think in the next 10 years, that change is only going to exponentially grow, where AI will become a feature of that, and agentic AI, where you'll have a robot, essentially a digital robot that you can ask a question of, or tell a task of, or tell to do a task, and it will just do it.
Yeah.
And it will know exactly what you mean by it when you say, create me a reel about X and make sure that it aligns to my brand guidelines. Yeah. And it will just understand that statement and generate that reel.
Yeah.
Or email everybody in my phone book telling them that I've got a new listing live, and it's just gonna do it. And in fact, in 10 years, we'll probably get to the time where you don't even need to tell it. It'll just know, you've got a new listing live. It needs to send it out to your phone book. What that means for estate agents specifically is that those who adopt that level of change and run with it, when it comes, will be so far ahead of the curve of the people going, oh crap, now I need to build my own agentic AI thing that's going to book my appointments and send out my property alerts and that sort of thing. They'll be starting from scratch. It would almost be like today setting up an Instagram account from scratch and going, whoa, what do I post? How do I cut through this deluge of content? Now from a completely cold start, 0 followers, 0 content. It's exactly that analogy. So the world of compute power is growing. Phones are getting more powerful. AI is facilitating more and more of that sort of process that takes it away from agents and just runs it for you.
Do you think, I mean, you just said it, do you think it will take away human agents? Do you think it will have effect on the number of agents who are going to be out there now compared to 10 years time?
I think numbers probably, because fewer agents will be able to deliver more. I don't think that it's going to remove the human element from all estate agency transactions. I think there will be some where it does. I think we're moving into a time of, if we talk about like fractional ownership and ledger technology, or like crypto technology, where you could stand outside a building, scan a QR code, and it would say, do you want to buy 1% of this building? It's for sale right now. Yes. And it's there, it's done, and it's done. that will come, and
Yeah.
that will remove the requirement for an agent.
Yeah.
But I also think there will still be significant number of transactions where a human is buying a house and wants to look another human in the eye and say, is this the right thing? Like,
Yeah, 100%.
I really need.
But then just going back to the point in terms of the click here and you can buy into it, surely, let's say you see a developer pop up on your Instagram and you see that, you don't know who that person is. Are you more likely to click on it if Ollie or I post that on our socials to click on it than if it was? So I think there's still going to be an element of us,
Human.
but I think we'll probably incorporate AI in that process.
Correct. Distribution it will become the differentiator.
Yeah.
When this like levels the playing field, everybody is a specialist and has access to all the same technology, then distribution and access to customers becomes the differentiator.
Yeah.
So the agents that have that distribution channel will outperform those who don't.
So on the point of distribution, you are the head of Advsr, which Ollie and I have spoken about a number of times, that one would assume our podcast is actually sponsored by Advsr. So
maybe we've set that up actually.
Yeah. So I hope our followers are.
You turn the tap off and you're coming for money.
Yeah. So let's talk about Advsr a bit, because distribution for agents like us is key, right? We can go and we can pitch for new business, and ultimately it's how many people can I get your property in front of? So should we talk about Advsr a little bit, the journey that it's gone on and kind of where it's going to go? Because I think it's probably about to explode over the next 12 to 18 months.
Yeah, sure. So look, the real journey of Advsr starts truthfully in Daniel Dagger's head decades ago.
Yeah.
And when I joined Knight Frank, we spent a lot of time together discussing new routes to market and how he could leverage the channels and the brand that he was building to benefit his clients and his sort of career. And we'd regularly come up against the same challenge, which was corporate structure or tradition. I won't say corporate, like traditional structure is when you take on a new listing, you send it out to your network of buyers, tend to be called like your database, do a match profile like search, and then you put it on your company website. Then you put it on Rightmove, and then you wait, right? And then actually most agents just get disinstructed, and the process starts again with the next agent.
This is a different brand.
This is a different brand. And when in a world where buyers were becoming more global and access to those buyers was becoming more difficult, GDPR was becoming a thing that we were having to be considerate of. So we couldn't just email blast out people as much as we wanted anymore. We're having to be careful. I guess we started to explore what the right solution was, and we'd always come back to the same hypothesis, which was all of the buyers around the world who are now buying in London, they might be in New York or Abu Dhabi or Dubai or wherever, they already had a relationship with an existing agent or broker locally. Yeah. Either the person that they bought through last, or maybe the guy they played golf with, or send their kids to the same school, whatever that relationship might be. There was a broker out there that had better access to them than we did. We had no access to them. So if we could incentivize those brokers around the world to share information about our listings, to your point, Benji, they're receiving it from someone that they already know and trust. Therefore, are way more likely to sort of engage with it, interact with it. And stars aligned at the beginning of lockdown, and we'd all left Knight Frank and we all came together to start building DDRE Global. Back then it was Daniel Dagger's real estate, right? Hadn't quite become DDRE yet. And we started to sort of beta test this hypothesis of like, okay, if we open the doors to all of the local agents at this point, all of the local agents to our listings, we get distribution to their buyer pools. Two, if we digitize that process, we get loads of data that we can present back to our clients and go, look, when you work with Daniel, you're not just getting access to Daniel's phone book of clients, you're getting access to the top agent in Highgate and the top agent in Belsize Park, etc. So that really solidifies that seller's choice in Daniel, as opposed to having to choose between three or four. And Daniel could run the whole thing for him. And all of this sort of came to a head in 2021 when one of the agents in the team, through that methodology, through that process, sold a £15 million house in Highgate on the Bishops Avenue, where interestingly, the buyer, who obviously was referred to us via one of the Advsr links, it actually wasn't called Advsr back then, it was called PropView.
Okay.
And that was like our beta test website. He'd referred the client via his PropView link back into to Danny's team. And the buyer had said, do you know what? I'd seen the property on Zoopla and I completely disregarded it because I'd never heard of Daniel Dagger's real estate.
Wow.
Yeah.
Interesting.
And that was just like, this is it.
Yeah.
What we have just sort of stumbled on, not stumbled on, but what we've just fallen upon is the perfect trusted distribution route.
Yeah.
So that was when we really pulled the trigger, and I stepped aside from my role at DDRE.
Yeah.
What was then DDRE, sort of backfilled the marketing and tech team there, and stepped aside to focus solely on Advsr.
Wow. So fast forward 4 years, Advsr is very much, becoming well known globally.
Mm-hmm.
What is the future over the next couple of years for Advsr and the expansion of what hopefully you're going to build?
So look, right now we have two sort of strands to our business. One are our agents. They're our sort of lifeblood, the brokers, agents, advisors around the world who want to collaborate with one another.
Yeah.
The common thread throughout all of them is that they recognize that through collaboration, there is a greater chance of success than keeping their cards close to their chest. And I think that methodology or mentality is being adopted by more and more agents globally.
Yeah.
It's more common in some areas than others. UK is way behind behind the times. The US, way ahead of the times. They already sort of have this sort of buy side, sell side mentality, collaborative mentality. Developers are our other sort of core audience or core market. What we're seeing is more and more developers going, we want to take control of global distribution of our real estate. We may or may not have a local agent on side to run our activity or our activations locally, but we want to run our global distribution. So we think that what I foresee happening is more and more developers using platforms like Advsr to scale their marketing output, improve their ROI on all the content they're creating, the product they're building, put it in front of more and more brokers, either on market, social media, email newsletters, etc., or very discreetly off market, and really control the narrative, which for a long time, especially in corporate structure, they haven't been able to, because they're sort of shackled by corporate process.
And it was a really, was it last year, the year before, where we, as a team, obviously went out to Quinta del Lago, to the development there, One Greenway. And I remember talking to you at the time, and I think they had spent like $250,000, again, just go through these data, but they spent about $250,000 again on something like SEO and some like Google ads and etc., and had like no responses. They hadn't had any data points behind it. They have no idea really who that has hit. And just tell them via using Advsr, the results that we then got by spending
zero money.
So
you're right. They spent 250 grand. I can't even remember. I think it was a year, must be a year.
Yeah.
And literally had 0 leads. And then we had 20 agents fly out, shoot some content. And we must have had 70,000 views of those listings within the first few days, and 5 buyer referrals into that business within a day.
We had an offer after like 3 days or something, wasn't it, as well? Yeah.
It was
mental.
And it boils down to the trust equity that I know you guys have spoken about before, but the trust and relationships that you have with your clients is far stronger than any brand can ever expect to have from a cold start with a client through an Instagram ad.
100%. So you use code Benji and Ollie20 for an Advsr. No, I'm I'm conscious Elliot needs to shoot to a meeting. Should we very, very quickly do our quick fire questions?
Let's do very quickly. And I think maybe we should have a part 2 of this at some point. I think
he'll send us an invoice.
When this goes live, I think there'll be a lot of questions. So I think again, we should rebook.
I agree. I think it's been a bit rushed, so maybe we can have
a part 2, because there's probably loads of stuff that people are super interested.
Well, we can film that. We can film part 2, same outfits, and you can edit it together.
Really quick. One key tip for marketing a home.
This is not quickfire, is it? Well, first of all, put it on Advsr. But second of all, go all in on high quality content, video content and photography. Never take pictures of toilets.
The key core marketing rule that you always stick by.
Understand your customer.
That is a brilliant one.
Would you ever be tempted to become an agent?
No, couldn't. Do you know why? I absolutely hate
Lying.
I absolutely hate picking up the phone.
Really?
Hate picking up the phone. I don't know why, and it's something I'm working on personally. But if I had the option to call or email or text, I'd choose anything but call.
Interesting. How big can Advsr really get?
We can become the number one professional services referral platform.
Yeah.
And by professional services, I mean lawyers, bankers, accountants, art dealers, real estate agents.
Yeah.
I truly believe that you're all talking to the same people.
Yeah.
And you all need to leverage one another's networks and access.
This is a long question, so give it in a snapshot. You have agents from 10, 20 places around the world. What are you seeing in a property market on a global scale in a snapshot?
The market right now is tough. Across most of the world, there are a few poster childs, but everybody is struggling when it comes to transactions.
And one which isn't on here, but I want to ask. This platform is the same in any luxury sector. And I was talking to my friends at Sunseeker about this platform a couple of weeks ago. Do you see Advsr actually being able to pivot into the luxury art world, yachts, watches, etc., etc.?
All of our members will become their own mini personal private office who can deal in art, who can deal in yachts, who can deal in staffing, who can sell mortgage products, or refer to experts. People will surround themselves with a team of trusted advisors.
Yeah.
And that becomes your mini private office.
If you've got influence, you've got power.
Exactly.
Okay, we're going to have to do a part 2 because there was actually loads of questions I want to ask, and I'm sure after watching the first podcast, there's going to be loads of messages about people want to ask you more. Elliot, thank you. We know your time is very precious, but just by sitting here for 40 minutes or so with you, we learned so much. So we really appreciate you coming on.
No, thank you for inviting me. It's been a lot of fun.
Thanks. Part 2.
On to part 2.